I
Click on
thought
the
he was
next
still
one. It
out.
opens that way.
Just come
I've
back.
got them all online so that I can, those are the minutes, that's first on the agenda.
Yeah.
That's the next thing.
Is that happening right now?
Well, it happened, when I saw it, it was about 4:30. The fire trucks
We
and
are
stuff
getting
sitting
close to
out
that
here.
time.
Yeah.
Nobody from City
Real
Hall knew
close.
what was going on.
Okay.
Yeah,
And Cindy's not being here, that may be the reason why. That'd be too bad.
Michelle Stanton.
Versus Cindy, versus Cindy.
Got 1 minute.
Gonna stay.
Must be here
He
tonight.
must be tired.
Mike?
Is our
Gonna
microphone
get
on?
Stan from that. It's all right. Okay. Good evening. If you'd all rise, I'd appreciate that. Welcome to everybody. Welcome to tonight's May 20th Common Council meeting. We'll start with the invocation by Jack. Thank you, Jack.
Let's pray. Father God, thank you so much for this evening, this time that we all come gather together to do the city's business. Father, we thank you for all the blessings that you've given us with this community, all the great things that happen around here, keeping crime low, keeping our departments well, ready to take on their jobs. Father, we thank you for this weather and this beautiful sunshine. Father, I would just pray that you would give us wisdom and knowledge so that we might do the city's business in a good, timely, and well thought out manner. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Jack. To the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. Tonight's meeting, for the record, Lynn Cindy Dobbins is absent. Also, Scott Boyce will not be attending legal. First item here is the approval of the minutes from the May 6th meeting.
I'll make a motion we approve as presented.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any further comments? Call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ayes have it. Recognition of visitors. Sherry, Launchpad, you may come up. Thank you.
I need a few copies. I thought
Thank
it might
you.
be easy.
Thank you.
I have enough for everyone, but
This way. Yeah, there you go. Good.
Share.
There you go. Yeah.
oh,
Thank
sorry.
you.
Thank you. Be sure you speak into the microphone. It's sometimes hard to hear.
Thank you, Sherry.
All right, you're welcome. I'm Sherry Searles. I'm the director of Launchpad. Launchpad's the Child Care and Early Learning Coalition for Kosciuszko County. I work for the Chamber of Commerce. We are an initiative that started in 2018 to try to bring more high-quality, affordable child care to our community so more people could work. And so that's what we've been working on for the last few years. We were very thankful to receive some ARPA funds in 2022. We received $250,000, and our plan for the funds was to try to incentivize businesses getting involved in providing childcare for their own workforce. This started when Instrumental Machine and Development, or IMD, purchased a home and opened their own childcare for their employees. And we really thought this was going to be a trend that was going to continue. What we wanted to do was provide funds for a 25% match for whatever that business invested in providing childcare for their own staff. IMD was our first and unfortunately our only business who has come forward up to date to get those funds. So we have awarded them about $71,000. That was a quarter of what they spent when they purchased and renovated a home over on Park Avenue. And so a couple of years into this grant, we don't have any other businesses that are interested in opening childcare for their staff. I will say, as a side note, we have built an additional over 500 seats in Kosciuszko County with schools and churches, and so businesses may not see as much of a need for that. But for whatever the reason, we still have a balance of funds that you see there of $167,000. And what we would like to do is just shift the way that we can award these funds. If you look at the second page, you'll see some changes that we'd like to make to the MOU, which would allow us to extend beyond the parameters that we put on these grant funds. We are aware that the YMCA is currently working on an initiative to open a play cafe at their location, and what this would provide is a place for childcare for remote workers. So we have a pretty large group of folks still working remotely from some of our larger orthopedic companies. Typically, these are women working from home, but sometimes they have young children that make it difficult to take meetings or to be on a Zoom call. And so this Play Cafe would be a membership model where working parents can come, stay on site, work in the cafe, and their children will be attended by play coaches. And so this will open childcare seats up for those that are working remotely. And so currently, the way our MOU states, the childcare would have to have at least 12 seats, and this would say that instead of those 12 seats, it would be seats in a cafe for remote workers. And the other change that we'd like to make is down at the bottom where it says that they would be state licensed and working toward a high quality rating. Play cafes do not have to be licensed by the state, nor would they be part of PASDA quality because they wouldn't be licensed. So it would be a different type of childcare, just an unlicensed type because the parents are still on site. So we know that there's about a $400,000 investment that the YMCA is going to be making to renovate a portion of their building. And so we would like to use some of the funds to help them with that 25% match. In addition, IMD, Instrumental Machine and Development, is still investing every month a large amount for this childcare that they've opened. They have a need for a new roof on their building, and so if we can go back to IMD and give another 25% match, that will also use about 25,000 of those funds. And then we think there'll be a little bit of a balance left, which we are open to giving back for other needs as you notice in the community. I'm happy to take questions if you have anything.
Sherry and Rob Parker came to me about 4 to 6 weeks ago asking to be given the opportunity to make this request. The MOU that we currently have in item number 6 does give them an opportunity to come before the board if there are changes from the original MOU. If there are questions, highly recommend that you do ask her this evening. Action tonight obviously would be up to you. It could be something that you would want to consider moving forward, but that'd be your pleasure what you want to do tonight. If you do want to take action or just consider and give yourself time individually and collectively to think through this in the coming days and the next until we have our next council meeting. Are there any questions that you have?
Sherry, has there been any research on how many seats are needed in the open cafe type of idea? I know we don't have any yet. We're looking at getting a couple, but has there been any kind of survey of the county, or have you heard that this is a need, or what? Why are you wanting to do
looking at
that.
this model. Yeah, we have not done an official survey. This just comes from anecdotally what we hear from folks that are still working remotely or trying to work remotely and finding it difficult, trying to make that balance between I work from home, but I also have children at home. So we haven't done an official survey, just from comments that I've heard in the community and from different companies.
You mentioned something about a new roof.
Yes. That would be for Instrumental Machine and Development and the home that they purchased for childcare. They're currently investing about $10,000 each month in keeping that program operational for their employees. And so this would be just another way to incentivize what they're doing by being able to help with a quarter match for that.
So are you currently matching that with 25% at
No.
10,000?
No, the original, what we originally gave to IMD was for the home and the renovations that they purchased. So this has been in operation for about 2 years. So we're about 2 years in, and now they're finding that they need a roof.
Have you been in contact with any of the businesses who you think might be interested in opening up? And I'm just kind of curious as to how this works. Does the company have like a cafeteria space and they're planning on doing something like that? Or how's that going to work?
It looks very different for each company depending on their needs. And so I talk to businesses all the time about what their needs are. I provide surveys for them to survey their staff to find out what their needs are. That's where we started with IMD. And when they first came to me ready to build a child care center, but after their, which would be several $1 million, after they realized they only had a need for about 10 to 15 seats, I recommended a licensed home over a child care center, which is a much smaller undertaking. And so each time a company has reached out, we talk about what the need is and the different types of things they can do. And sometimes it's just partnering with a existing child care, as we've done with Pollywood up in Syracuse. But at this point, I don't have any employers, although I talk to them frequently, that are interested in making that investment at this time.
So we don't know if there'll be any interest in this as well?
Well, there hasn't been in the 2 years that we've been trying to bring folks in.
Yeah.
So,
Just as an FYI too, that we have made 2 payments to them at $62,500. The next one's due in October. And then I don't know if the MOU that we currently have would need to be rewritten or not, but that would probably be up to you all and with the advice of the city attorney.
yeah, the amount there for IMD, that's $70,195. We are paying them over the course of 4 years, so we have not paid them that total amount yet. When we check back with them yearly, we check to see that their license is currently still in good standing, that they are on the path to quality, and that they have at least 80% of capacity.
Personally, I think I'd like a little more time to digest this. This is the first time I've seen this. And talk to Cindy and Jack about it maybe a little bit too.
I did want to give Sherry and Rob an opportunity to come again. They talked to me, what was it, 4 to 6 weeks ago maybe, and to come and present this request to you, which they can do in the MOU. And Mike, that might be a good idea. We can then check all of our bases, again, on what could happen if you are interested in entertaining this request.
And I can email you guys a copy of the MOU tomorrow.
That's what I was going to ask.
If you would like to see
That
that.
would be helpful.
Okay.
I guess I'd like to see a little more, I don't know, a little more solid plan as to how it would go forward. we have to spend this money by the end of,
2026.
no, it has to be dedicated by the end
End
of
of
this
this
this year.
By
And we
the end
already,
of the year.
yeah, we've already, when we just redid the update of the spending plan, that they still
Yep.
were at the 250.
Wouldn't, we've already designated this money, so we don't.
have, but we shifted it, so
Wouldn't this, because it's already designated, this wouldn't, now it's their money to do with what they want with it, right? We
If
don't
they-
have
if
to
they
spend
can
it by
spend it.
2026.
if they can spend it.
Well,
That's
yeah, I
the
get
thing
your point
I'm
there. I'm
kinda
just saying
worried
that
about.
the timeline shouldn't matter as much, because we've given them the funds, right? We've already earmarked it. Is that how that works, or am I misunderstanding
So
it?
they'll get their last payment if you stick with the plan the way it is. They'll get the last
Mhm.
$62,500 in October of '26.
Yeah,
So
okay.
then that way we will have spent the money by the end of
And
'26.
then it's in their control, so the timeline of when the money gets spent won't matter.
That's
That's
true.
all I'm-
That's true, as long as they
yeah.
can spend it on what we had already stated it could be spent on. And if we change to
Yes.
this, and this doesn't work,
Mhm.
then what, then that money just kind of gets left laying out there, I believe.
We don't
Am I
have
correct?
everything designated by the end of '24.
Goes back.
So we have some time to,
We have a little time, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I misunderstood that a little bit.
I would say that'd be time well spent.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And the MOU does allow them to come before you, but again, they have to if they change direction or want to do something different. So that's why they wanted to come here and share.
And at this point, we are changing direction somewhat, right?
Our goal is still to provide as much childcare as we can for working parents in the community. So the goal hasn't changed.
Okay.
Just moving from a licensed facility to something, to a place where remote workers can come and work. So it's a little bit different model. But the goal isn't really this, the goal has not changed. It's to provide as much high-quality childcare as we can to our working families.
I agreed to that, yeah.
And I appreciated it
Yeah.
weeks ago, again, they came in good faith, and
Sherry,
Make
have
sure
you
the vote is-
identified any reasons why you've only had one company make a request?
Well, what's really interesting is that we have companies all over the state that are coming to Kosciuszko County to find out what IMD has done. So it's really pretty rare that we have a company that's invested like they have. It's kind of a scary proposition for businesses to open this up to their workforce and say, we're going to provide for your child care needs. I mean, they look at what kind of investment is this going to end up being. So I know that we have employers that have talked to me, they're interested. It's just taking that next step to make that investment.
any other questions? I don't need a vote or anything. If you want to follow what Mike's suggestion is, we can just no action on this. Again, it's mostly just wanting you to be aware of what they're interested in doing.
Then our request would be to hear from our attorney to be able to review the memorandum.
Right. If you're interested in moving forward with it, and I could take from Jack and Cindy here in the coming days direction, so.
I don't want to shut any doors, but I don't
Yeah,
feel
I
I
don't
have
either.
enough information to make a competent decision. So for that reason, I would like to wait a little bit.
Rob
Sure,
Parker
maybe
and
it
I
would
are
be
available
helpful
to,
If
yeah.
you could
No, go ahead.
find out how many people the Y anticipates using this service, because I assume if they're making this kind of investment, they've done something to research that.
Yes, I'll connect with them and get back with you.
I mean, not that every child isn't important, but spending $200-some thousand for 5 kids is different. If we can do somewhere, we'd have more impact, so I'd like to know what they're thinking.
Understood.
if you could. Thank you.
Yeah, this will be a rotating, so the play cafes that we have visited around the area, they really do have about a rotating calendar. You may have 50 working parents who are rotating in and out of that play cafe on a 9 to 5 basis. So it won't be the same children all the time. It would be depending on the workload.
And this cafe would be located at the YMCA?
That's correct. They're going to be doing some renovations.
Only available for members?
No, available to the community. There will be a discounted price for members.
Okay.
Yeah, good questions. And again, Sherry and Rob, I'm sure would be glad to talk to you.
Yes, Rob wanted me to send his apologies. He had a death in the family, so he wasn't able to attend. But we're both available for more questions or to talk further.
And again, I'll seek guidance from Jack and Cindy as this progresses, and we can see in the coming weeks if you want to entertain this and then potentially take action. Sherry, thank you
All
very
right.
much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to pursue it.
Yeah.
I would. Just, like Mike, I just feel like I need a little bit more information.
Okay.
I'd like to see a solid plan, at least somebody that says, yeah, I'd sign on. You know, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I appreciate your patience again. I met with him and I just told him you're going to have to go before the council and make that request, so. Yeah, good. Any other comments? All right, we'll move into reports, oral and written. There's an April fund report. Lynn?
I don't have anything exciting to talk about on the April Fund report. If there's any questions, I could try to answer them though.
And when do we receive our money?
In June,
Okay.
probably the last half of June. But we did get notice that we got the special distribution for the lit and the edit funds. And I don't remember the exact figures, but the lit was like 1.2 million, which I think that's the most we've ever received. And then the edit was 250,000. And that's when there's so much left above the reserve at the state level, and then they send what we should have received back to us. And I don't know when we'll be getting that either, hopefully before the end of June.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Next item is the cable franchise fee, first quarter.
This is for Comcast. It's looking like it's starting to go down somewhat, so.
All
It is
the
what it
cable
is.
cutters.
All the cable
All
cutters.
the cable cutters.
Any questions with that?
Yeah, just for clarification, is this for the city's use of internet, or what is this
This is
actually
the
for?
franchise fee that cable companies or whoever has to pay to the city for being in our right of way.
Okay. So that's kind of their licensing fees from the city, in a way. It's income.
It's a fee that they have to pay.
Okay, thank you.
Well, actually, the customer's paying it.
Indirectly.
Lynn, thank you for the clarification. Good. Good point. Any other questions? Okay, there's no unfinished business. That will take us to new business. We have an ARPA request from the AWL. John? Thank you, sir.
Good evening. I also have a handout. And I think,
Thank you so much.
yeah,
Thanks.
you've probably already seen this in an email, but I just wanted to reinforce this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I did have my office email you. I hope you did see it earlier. Okay, good. Thanks, John.
Yeah, so, a lot of good information. Second page is about some of the stuff you saw in our newsletter and annual report. All good stuff. You can tell I love statistics from my years in management. So a little bit about me real quick. So I'm just 3.5 years in this community now, 3 years with Animal Welfare League, my 9th year in the nonprofit world. And my wife and I enjoy being here. And then the last page is euthanasia rates around this part of the state. And everybody's doing a pretty good job there. If you don't, you end up on the front page of the Journal-Gazette, like the Fort Wayne shelter for euthanizing 30% of all the euthanasias in the state. So, are there any questions on the handouts or the newsletter? No? Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
The very first sentence says you came up short. Needed to raise $469,775 to keep the shelter operational, and you came up short. How short were you?
A little over $20,000.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
We worked hard last year for that. We've been to a few seminars that talk about how people give, and we know that animal shelters are in the bottom 3% on how individuals donate their money to nonprofits. So we feel pretty good at getting that far ahead of it. But I'm here today to ask for ARPA funds to support our laundry needs by a refurbished commercial washer. This will be the same model of the washer we currently have. We've been through, I don't know, 5 or 6 residential washers that we inherited when I came on board, when Tanya came on board, when our board started its transformation. And, you know, we do 35 to 40 loads of laundry a day. And so that wears that stuff out pretty fast. So we picked a washer exactly like the commercial one that we had that broke down for 2 weeks. We put almost $5,000 in getting it back running again, but we wanted the same washer because our maintenance guys learned how to take that thing all apart and replace the trunnion and the bearings and all the expensive stuff in there. So that's part of our ARPA. And then the cat house that we've worked hard in remodeling also through county ARPA funds and donations. We thought we did a good job insulating it, but above the front part of the cat house, there were some pipes up there that froze last year. So now we need to put some spray foam insulation in to protect those. We got the ceiling insulated, but not the sidewalls of that metal building. So that's what that's for. Any questions on that? It's been a tough couple years for shelters around this country, and part of it is there's the lack of pet-friendly housing, veterinary care, pet supplies, and so pets are coming into shelters, adoptions are down across the country. We belong to all sorts of national organizations where we track all this data. And again, I get a little, people think I'm a little crazy about that, but we get their annual reports, shelter animal counts. They come in, they take all our statistics, as well as shelters, hundreds of shelters around the nation. We track our 12 categories we track weekly on our shelter, on what we're doing, intakes, outtakes, how many we have to euthanize. And you saw last year we only had to euthanize 28 pets, so we're pretty dang proud of that. You also saw in the other report the hundreds of pets that were euthanized in this county years ago, which is pretty sad. Any questions I can answer for you all?
John, I just appreciate all your efforts. I did visit earlier in the year. John, nice to see you here. Mr. Hall, and I was just there a few weeks ago with my wife. I told you I'd get her out there.
Yes, thank you for that.
You may have a volunteer on your hands sooner than later.
That'd be great.
She was very impressed with your efforts, and I'll just remind the council, if you haven't been out there recently, highly recommend you go out and see what they're trying to accomplish. John, in your request for the funds, the grant application, the total amount is $19,713.33. And item 4, the 20% responsibility, you don't have an amount there. Are you ready to make that contribution? Are you
Yes, we have a donor for that stepped up for that.
just under $4,000?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to go over a couple of things on the application.
Okay.
What the council is seeing here, as far as the application that has been submitted, the numbers are not all correct, totally correct. For instance, the used commercial washer, if you look at the quote for the commercial washer, it's $480 or $4834.20, and on the front of the application, we've got it down as $5425.33. I talked to John about that, and the difference there was for delivery and installation.
And lift gate, excuse me.
Yeah, the lift gate to get it off the truck and get it installed. So what that does is that changes the overall number. You would have a total for the dryer of $56.55 and 48 cents, and that was, we got that number from an email that John submitted. And then the price for the cat house, the installation for the cat house was $14,288, and that number is still solid. I've been told anyhow. I mean, I noticed on the quote that it was, the proposal was good for 30 days, and it was January 31st when we got the quote, or you got the quote. But you've been in touch with them, and they're still good on that.
Yes,
On
and I
that quote.
submitted a new quote with new dates on it to Cindy.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
All
it
right.
did
Yeah,
go
we
up.
got one that said 5.6.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
then I'm using old news then.
Yeah, but it still doesn't add up to what the application.
Right, the total still doesn't add up. And so I was approached by Lynn here just before the meeting. And Lynn, maybe you can explain a little bit. We would like to have this application resubmitted with all the numbers lining up for us. And Lynn, I'll let you explain that.
So the State Board of Accounts will come in and they will look at our requests and everything. And if this does not add up to what the invoices say, then they're gonna probably say something about that everything needs to
Okay.
add up. So if we could just have an updated application.
Sure.
That would be really helpful, that would match the invoices,
Okay.
okay? And I don't know for like the washer, if you'll be able to find one that has the delivery charge, but if you have a note or something attached to it.
Or
Well,
just have a quote on the delivery,
Yeah,
a quote on how much it's going to cost to deliver, and a quote on the lift gate, whatever that is.
Okay. I can put that on the document, but this particular vendor, they don't quote. These are on their website. These charges are on their
as
website.
long as we have documentation that adds up to what your application says.
So could he print it off of the website and
I think
submit that
that's
as
what
a
you did
document?
with this,
Yeah,
the washer in the
Yeah.
first place.
okay.
And then also get the, off of the website, the delivery? You say that's a different,
Okay, yes,
print that off?
Okay.
That should suffice, would that suffice, Lynn?
okay. And do I send that to Cindy or Lynn?
You can send it to Cindy or,
Cindy or myself?
yeah.
Okay, great.
I would definitely say Cindy, but Cindy's been a little under the weather, so
Okay,
I'm trying to help her out.
gotcha. Any other questions?
Now, when I first talked to Lynn about this, I thought, well, okay, maybe we could go ahead and pass it tonight, based on the numbers I've come up with, but what happens if your numbers don't exactly coincide with mine? And at that point, I'm wondering if maybe we shouldn't wait to pass it when we get all that documentation cleaned up.
Okay, I'd be happy to come back.
Well, at
Sorry.
least you won't have to stand
Yeah.
before us and ask us a whole bunch of questions.
Yeah. No, I'd be
It
happy
should
to
be a
come
little more
back.
of an informality, I would
Okay.
think.
Would he
at that
have
point.
to come back if we have all the
I don't-
documentation?
If we got all the documentation, no, I don't think so. Unless anybody wants to,
The only
anybody
other,
else have any questions now? I mean,
the only other thing I could think of to do would be just set an amount like 20,000, say not to exceed 20,000 for this request. We can do that legally, and then when we get the exact numbers and Lynn's satisfied, then they could just go ahead, so that way they won't lose their bid or anything.
You comfortable with that?
I'm
Yeah.
comfortable with that. How about the rest, anybody else?
Just make a motion to approve up to 20,000.
Is that a motion, Jerry?
I can make a motion that we approve up to $20,000 of the ARPA funds.
Okay, is there a,
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed.
not to exceed
Yes.
$20,000?
Yes.
There's been a motion by Jurgen, is there a second?
I'll second.
Before you call for the vote, in previous ones, the city attorney suggests that we also designate the,
Receiver.
the purchasing agent for that, and I think it would be John as well, because he's the one that's gonna be submitting the bills, so.
Yeah.
So what we need is a purchasing agent from AWL, and in every other case, it has been the person who is, the CEO or president of the organization or whatever, that has done that. And so I guess I'm asking you, would that be you, or would it be Mr. Hall back here?
You just
or-
need to publicly state who that is, and if it's gonna be you, just state.
It'll be me.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay. Yes, and I am on the finance committee, something that we started 3 years ago. We never had a finance committee, and that's something that John Hall and Dan Woods and our finance manager all came up with. So, and as you can see in our newsletter, we're showing transparency to the community for every dollar that we have and spend. So, something we're proud of.
So I guess I'll add that to my motion, that you or John Lance are the purchasing agent for the expenditure.
Okay?
And I'll accept that addition on my
Yeah.
second.
Okay.
Okay, so there is a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? John, any further comments? You good?
I just want to invite you all to come. Some of you have been there. You might have been there when that shelter opened. It's a whole different warm atmosphere now. And just please come and see what you're supporting.
I'm afraid to come, I might end up bringing home something.
That's the idea.
Then you really should go out there.
Yeah, we've got plenty, so.
And I would just say during our discussion that please understand that we don't make the rules. We just have to follow these rules. We're not trying to make you jump through hoops.
Right.
We're the ones that have to jump through hoops in order to give you what you need.
I appreciate that. I've been through many hoops in these last 3 years, so,
More to come.
One more and good.
yeah,
John, thanks for your efforts.
thank you.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. This time I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
I'd like to note that with this acceptance, we are currently at about $25,000 left in the ARPA fund.
Thank you.
And we do have somebody on deck, I should say.
Item number 2, new business. Justin, please. Thank you.
Yeah, so At the April 15th council meeting, the council voted in favor of a resolution declaring an area of the city as blighted. As part of that grant application at that April 15th meeting, we had a public hearing facilitated by Donnie Ritzma of MACOG, who is assisting with the application. Again, part of that grant application, we have to do 2 public hearing portions prior to the application later in June. So we'd just like to have a secondary public hearing for that grant application. And again, Donnie will facilitate that if the board approves of that.
Thank you.
Thank you all again for having me come down again this month. So during this public hearing portion, is that correct? Are we in the public hearing?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So I did bring a sign-in sheet with me, so everyone who is here in attendance, if you wouldn't mind while I'm giving my update on the grant application, if you wouldn't mind just stepping over to the table behind me and just filling out that sign-in sheet real quick, I greatly appreciate it. It's one of the requirements we need for our grant application when we're doing public hearings, that members in the audience fill out that sign-in sheet. So again, I appreciate it. So as Justin mentioned, we're 2 stages. The first was that proposal. That was the first public hearing that I came down on April 15th. That proposal was due April 26th. We did get our proposal in. And now we are in the second stage, or the final stage, which is the final application. We met with our Okra Community Liaison last week Monday on May 13th to review that proposal and areas that we can refine and make some tweaks. And so, like I said, we are proceeding with making those revisions. Final application is due to Okra June 28th. And again, Okra is the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs. So we are applying for the Community Development Block Grant Blight Clearance Program. The goals, as I mentioned in April 15th, are still the same. We need to meet 1 of 3 national objectives. The national objective that we are seeking to achieve is the prevention or elimination of slum blight conditions in the designated area. And again, on the 15th, that was that resolution that the council had addressed in the past then. So the need for our grant application, number 1 is Fellowship Missions is the property owner of the 2 parcels of the 2 subject buildings that we're talking about. They, however, are not considered a prime direct recipient for federal funds, and thus is needing to partner with the city of Warsaw, who is that eligible lead applicant. So the city of Warsaw is serving as that lead applicant, with Fellowship Missions being tied on as a subrecipient. And as I mentioned, we are funding for the demolition of the 2 blighted buildings, as well as treating the asbestos or abating the asbestos within those 2 buildings. Located on 2 parcels in the 1600 block of East Winona Avenue in Warsaw, Indiana, and again owned by Fellowship Missions. The buildings, I'm sure you all are familiar, have been underutilized, been deteriorating since former industrial uses have ceased around 2000, and the building's falling apart and debris is falling, which is making it unsafe for anyone passing by within the right-of-way, as well as just not being able to be on site, especially when we're doing site remediation activities, doing inspections, is still just unsafe for those investigating. And as I mentioned about that, IDEM and EPA have designated this site as a brownfield, and we will also, in partnership with MACOG, Leah Thill from our office, we'll be going through site remediation activities along with this CDBG grant application. So if we are awarded, there's a number of out-of-scope activities that would also need to be addressed with this project, such as removal of storage tanks, and then doing further investigation of soil and groundwater for potential contamination. And we'll also coordinate with Okra's environmental review staff. So if we are rewarded during a review period, after that time, we'll be coordinating with their environmental staff to make sure that timing-wise, we can get things addressed before demolition can proceed. So I would also like to mention that before the final grant application is due, we do also need to document in some fashion how this project impacts residents. And so with the city and Fellowship Missions, we are exploring several different ways that we can garner that. So one idea is doing a door-to-door survey, or putting together like an online version of a survey that we could mail out postcards to residents within the immediate neighborhoods around the site to ask them how this project impacts them, to kind of keep it short amongst a few other questions. We also kicked around the idea of maybe having an open house in conjunction with my council's meeting. So I know your council meeting starts at 7. There's an idea of maybe if we held an open house prior to, from like 5 to 7, to give residents an opportunity to come and share their input if they didn't want to conduct within the survey. Again, these are just ideas, but for this grant, our liaison wanted us to come up with more ways in how we can document impact to residents. And then, sorry for a long spiel, but our proposed activities is we are going to fund for the demolition during the first public hearing. I did mention that the intended end use was to be redeveloped into a homeless shelter. However, after further consultation with our liaison with Okra, it was determined that once the site is cleared, so following demolition, and we are in that grant closeout period, it was advised that the intended end use remain as undeveloped green space during that 5-year grant closeout period. And I needed to actually state that here in this hearing that that's what the new intended end use will be. The total project cost is still remaining, as when I mentioned on April 15th, $550,000 for the demolition and the abatement of the asbestos. We are still working on getting more updated cost estimates to just narrow in on what those scopes works would look like. The max award amount that we can request is $500,000, and Fellowship Missions is agreeing to also provide our local match commitment requirement. That's 10% of the total project cost, not the award. So Fellowship Missions is agreeing to the 10% match of $55,000. So total project cost $550,000. The last things I want to mention real quick is if we are awarded, I know I mentioned this on the 15th, but again, I need to restate it. Approximately 41.75% of the grant award, or $208,750, would be used to benefit low to moderate income individuals in the project service area. And for blight clearance programs, it was advised to us again by Okra that the service area is technically considered the city limits, so that percentage, while is not a requirement for the actual grant, it's still a factor that we have to base the benefit to low to moderate income on. And then the last thing is we are not required to meet that normal 51% low to moderate income threshold because our national objective is that prevention and elimination of slum blight. One of the other national objectives is directly benefiting low to moderate income, and in which case, if that was what we're seeking to achieve, we would have to do an income survey to see if we would meet that 51% threshold or more. Again, but we are not having to do that, but we still need to document how much low to moderate income would benefit from this project, and then that's based on citywide. The last thing is this project will not result in any displacement of individuals or businesses. So I know that was a long-winded update again, but as I mentioned, we are proceeding to do a final, and I'm happy to take any questions if anyone in attendance as well as on council has anything.
So
I'm sorry.
this money is all going to be used for demolition and remediation of the property, so it's environmentally safe?
Just the asbestos. There's a few other, like I mentioned, out of scope site remediation activities that we are using a different source of funds to address those items.
Okay. So that's why they want you to leave it blank, so they can show that it's all demolished and...
The real reason is because normally for blight clearance projects, this is what we were advised, and normally these projects are cleared and there's usually not an intended end use or redevelopment plan in place. However, Fellowship Missions did have a redevelopment proposal, and but there's no secured funding to support that redevelopment. So that's the activity that we would want to redevelop to is an eligible activity if we did that, but we would need to have funds secured prior to that, and that's something that still is needing to happen. And that's where Okra advised, because funds are still needed to be secured, and there needs to be tied to a redevelopment plan. Until then, it needs to be undeveloped green space.
That's my understanding. None of this money that we're talking about here comes out of the city, out of our budget or anything. We are simply acting as a pass-through for the money as an oversight.
As administrator, yeah.
Yes, administrator.
Because Fellowship Missions is, while the sub is the one who is ultimately kind of the beneficiary, is providing that local match for this grant.
And as you can see with this application process, there are many, many steps, or John, many hoops that must be jumped through. And again, I just appreciate your efforts, Donnie, and our plan department trying to put this together. One of the steps tonight is we do have to have a second public hearing. And that's why he is here again tonight.
And this is that.
This
This
is
is
that
that,
part
yeah.
of it, yeah, another step in the process. Go ahead.
This is the actual public hearing. right?
Yeah, I'm just allowing you guys to ask him questions now, and then I'll open it up to the public. Any other question? Mike, do you have a question?
Yeah, so, and maybe it's a Justin question, I don't know. So you're gonna apply for $500,000, you're gonna put in 10% more, or $55,000. So you're gonna have $550,000. Is all that amount going to the demolition and
Just
remediation of the
the
property?
500. The 500 is for the demolition
Okay.
and the asbestos.
So then what is the sentence, if awarded, approximately 41.75% of the grant award, or $208,750, will be used to benefit low to moderate income individuals?
Correct.
Is that part of the 550, or is that an additional amount, or,
That's part of the 550.
but you just told me that 550 is,
Or I'm sorry, the 500. It's part of the award amount, which would be 500,000. So 500,000, and then factoring 41.75% equals that 208,750.
I'm missing something. It's 550,000 to demolish the property and remediate it to green space.
That's, yeah, the total project cost. So 500,000 is the federal amount that we can apply for. And that's, we're right now shooting to apply for the full 500,000 amount. And that 500,000 is only being used for the demolition and then the asbestos. The 10,000, or the 10% local match, the 55,000, is being used for more of paying the architect, grant administration services,
Okay.
doing the environmental review items, and then labor standards, because it will be tied to a federal grant.
So all the money's gonna be spent.
Yeah,
Okay, so
I know, it's a little
what's throwing me
confusing.
off is the $208,000.
He wants to know, how is that gonna benefit somebody to have a clean space there?
But if all the money's used for demolition, how are you gonna have $208,750 left?
It's not left.
Am I making sense? Does anyone?
Yeah, I know what you're asking. I'm trying to best figure out how to answer it, because it's a weird statement that I have to include, but it doesn't involve like where money's going. If it's, which probably based on your blank look did not make any sense, but
Residents under the poverty line.
correct, that's
So
that
you
41.
you did the percentage based off of the entire grant. I asked the same question when he sent that over. So that final number is based on the percentage of the entire grant, and then the percentage of residents that live under the poverty line, and that's what Okra's focus is. So for some reason, they want to see that dollar amount that's going if you took the entire dollar amount and you just focused every dollar that would go towards that percentage of the population. It's kind of weird. It doesn't really factor into the grant, but that's the way I believe it was explained to me.
So it sounds like that's the way it has to be written to be accepted.
That's one of the metrics that they want to see.
Okay. Thank you, Justin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Good? Okay, at this time, I'll open it up to the public. This is a public hearing. This again is an application for a construction grant. Is there anyone that is here this evening that would like to speak or ask questions about this application process and the request? Eric, you're being awful quiet back there.
Well, I can talk about it all day long. If anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Would anybody like to make any comments for or against? Also, any questions?
Eric, what does this do to your long-range plan to have it?
Glad you asked. Confident answer.
How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing great. First of all, Donnie and Justin, thank you guys for your work. Donnie's been working his tail off. Nothing. Again, it's all in the lingo of the grant application. Doesn't change what we're looking to do long-term and the scope of things there. And in fact, I know there is after things are finished, we can then go get a variance on all of that.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know, because he said
No.
you'd be stuck for 5 years.
Well, but we've got all the capital to raise for that as well. So
Okay.
yeah, that's where we're okay with it. If we had the capital today, then it would have been a little different. So like
Okay.
Donnie said, it
So that's
had to
gonna
go through that way.
That'll be your fundraising period then, to go to the next phase.
Yeah, it's going to be a fairly large
What was
project.
your question, Diane?
Whether, like, being limited that he cannot build anything on that property for 5 years, how does that affect his long-range plan? Yeah.
Nope, still moving forward.
Any other questions for Eric? Okay. Would anybody else like to make any comments or ask any questions? Again, this is a public hearing, number 2, related to this application process. You good, Donnie? Are we good? Okay, do you have any further comments?
Just if everyone could fill in the sign-in sheet real quick, that'd be great.
It'd be very helpful if everybody present would fill it at the table back there by the door. Okay, no action needed. Donnie, are you good?
Yeah.
Okay.
No action this month. I will be getting with Justin and Lynn and Mayor for probably the first month's meeting in June. There's a number of items that will need the council's further approval on or signatures on. So didn't want to do it at this meeting, but in June, before we submit, likely we'll like to come before you at your first meeting. There's a few items that need the board or council's approval.
Good.
So
Thank you.
one of them being the authorization to allow Stephen to submit this grant. So that has to be done by resolution.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, I want to thank the board's patience with all of this. Again, it's just so many steps and we're a part of it, and it's all connected to what Eric is trying to provide for this community, so, good. Okay, thank you for that. Next item, Chief.
We don't have to vote on that?
No.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm just here to ask for the council's approval to donate our 1991 Pierce engine that we have out at our training facility to the Macy Fire Department here in Indiana. This has been ran through the Territory Board already. This is a project that Chief Mayo had been working on since February, and now I'm here to finish it up. So because the asset The asset is actually, the engine as the asset is the territories, so that's why it went to the territory board. But because the city is the participating unit of the territory, I have to have your guys' approval and follow the city's capital asset policy. So again, that's why it came before you guys tonight.
So the request is giving him permission to do this. And we'll have to entertain a motion to do that. But before that, are there any questions that you have of the chief?
And I do have one other comment, if I may. This was first sent out by Chief Mayo to all the fire chiefs in Kosciuszko County before it was opened up to others. It's again, a 1991 Macy Volunteer Fire Department, actually through some of the groups that we're involved with in the Chiefs Association, put out a thing. They just were looking for an engine. Again, we have one. They had one of their fire engines blow a motor, so that was in January. Their operating budget is only $22,000 for the year, so they're in need of an engine. So I would ask that you please help our neighbors. I know they're a little farther south down in Miami County, but again, to go with the mission of the city and the mayor's directive of neighbors serving neighbors, I would strongly suggest that you please approve this.
As you can see, this did come to us on the Fire Territory Board, and we approved it in our April meeting unanimously. If there aren't any more questions, I'd make a motion that we approve this request.
I'd second it.
Okay, there's a motion by Mike, a second by Jerry. Chief, any further comments?
Nope.
No. With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right. Justin, Resolution 2024-0504, another step. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'm just filling in for Jeremy tonight, but we do have a representative from Barnes and Thornburg. Tom is here. If you do have technical questions regarding the resolution before you today. Submitted for your approval is a resolution that's been in front of the Plan Commission as well as the Redevelopment Commission, approved by both. This resolution would expand the northern TIF to incorporate Danco to help the Redevelopment Commission facilitate their expansion and an extension of the gas line, which would long-term have quite a few benefits in the tech park, as well as this expansion of the central TIF, which would help facilitate further expansion of the Riverfront District, which would help a business owner who's been asking for that for a couple of years now. So again, if you do have technical questions, I'll be here to assist, or Tom from Barnes and Thornburg.
Thank you. Any questions for Justin? There are actually two resolutions, and you have the memo on this first item.
Yeah,
I would
that's,
actually, go ahead.
Sorry, that second resolution on the memo there is just adding Warsaw Chemical to the list of properties, the property acquisition list for the Redevelopment Commission. Again, it's not approving the acquisition of that property, but it's just adding it to a list that would, where the Redevelopment Commission could consider that acquisition in the future. So.
Tom, I would like you to speak. You had to drive a few miles to get here, and you've been waiting patiently, and I like your suit. All right. Any comments?
Justin did a great job summarizing. Good evening, council members. But yes, as mentioned, there are two resolutions approving the two declaratory resolutions of the Warsaw Redevelopment Commission. As Justin mentioned, this has been approved by the Redevelopment Commission, was approved on May 16th, both resolutions by the Plan Commission. If the council adopts both resolutions this evening, the Warsaw Redevelopment Commission will then hold a public hearing and give notice to the overlapping taxing units, and then we'll consider taking final action on both resolutions.
Jack and Mike, you guys are both on the Redevelopment Commission. Any comments?
Well, as Justin stated, this serves more than one purpose. It did come before us, we discussed it, we approved it unanimously, and it does not affect the timeline for the TIF. Mayor Tallmer, former Mayor Tallmer asked that question. I thought it was a good question. Will not affect the timeline, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Jack? You have anything?
I've got nothing more to add.
I ain't got nothing. Okay.
Diane, it did go before the Plan Commission
And Jurgen.
and Jurgen, that's right, I'm sorry, Jurgen.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Any comments you'd like to make? You good?
I asked the question whether then the money, like from the northern TIF, could be used in the central district. And my understanding is yes.
Yes, that's correct. So one of the benefits of consolidating the northern area and the central area is that it gives the redevelopment commission more flexibility with how to use those funds throughout the whole consolidated TIF area.
I don't know if you remember, Diane, but several years ago, we consolidated the eastern TIF with the northern TIF.
I do
which became-
remember that.
And then we can just use all those funds from northern TIF, so now this is just sort of adding the central TIF to the northern TIF. So we'll all be TIFed.
One big tip.
One big TIF.
Okay. Any other questions? for
The
Tom?
other plus was Danco needed a gas line, and they paid quite a bit of money for that gas line, but we were able to piggyback off of that and run that gas line over to the tech park. So any new businesses or buildings that go in there, they got gas.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so the first resolution before you is 2024-05-04, and that is the consolidation resolution. I will entertain a motion if there are no further questions.
I'll move to approve Resolution 2024-05-04.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? That'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. The next item is Resolution 2024-05-05. Justin, just for the record, what are we looking at here? Tom, you might be able to help out too.
Yeah, that's the second one that we kind of covered. It's at the bottom of the memo, so it's just that adding Warsaw Chemical to the property acquisition list for the redevelopment commission. So it doesn't mean we're acquiring it. They're still talking that through, and we'll make that final decision, but this just adds it to the list.
Thank you. Any questions for Justin or Tom? This second resolution?
So this is the Winona Interurban that we're adding it to?
Correct.
Yes, this is the top paragraph. Good, thanks, Diane. Any other questions?
Hearing none, I'd make a motion that we approve Resolution 2024-05-05.
Motion by Mike, for a second.
I'll second.
Motion by Mike, a second by Diane. Any further comments or questions?
Just a point of clarification, is it 0505 or 0501? What am I missing? We did 0504.
2024-05-05 is what I'm looking at, Lynn.
It's, yes.
Are you
it's
good with that?
0505. There is a 240501 stuck to 240504, but that was the resolution of the Plan Commission.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got you now.
Jack, you're good?
Yep.
Okay, there is a motion and a second. Are there any further questions or comments? Okay, I will call the question. All those in favor of passing Resolution 2024-0505, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, then. Thank you. Thanks, Justin and Tom, for that. Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other matters? Council, anything? I would just like to say thank you to the entire community, the council's support, the Fat and Skinny this past weekend, our first weekend with the established Dora District. I was down here until about 10:30, and then rode my bike back to Winona Lake with my wife down Market Street. It was a great evening, and I know several of you attended. It was a great event, and I'll thank you everyone for that.
Good kickoff for the Dora.
Yes.
That's good.
Any questions or comments from visitors? Denny, you've been, hey, it's good to see you tonight. I heard Jerry missed me. I want to thank everybody for attending. Any questions or comments? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We're adjourned. Have a safe evening home. Thank you very much.
Right on the number.
There you go.
You've been working out?
Are you already?
That's why I wanted to ask you clarification, so my understanding. We earmarked
So Jeremy will send these to you.
the money. Right. And we actually started paying